Hey everybody, Doug A798 here. This is part one of my salute of the entire Street Fighter franchise. Part one will be talking about the characters in the video games, and part two will be talking about the stuff that the Street Fighter franchise has spawned. With that being said, I love the Street Fighter franchise. Love the Street Fighter franchise, and I'm a huge fan of fighting games. It's actually one of my favorite genres, action and fighting. I also enjoy a few RPGs, some platformers, and some shooters, but action and pretty much fighting, I pretty much consider them the same genre, are pretty much my favorite type of video games to play. Been a huge fan of Street Fighter since 1990 1994. Love the Street Fighter. Love the Street Fighter video game series for its awesome gameplay, music, humorous visuals, and humorous dialogue. Well, there's not much voice acting because all I hear is the characters speaking a little Japanese and their whatever their move phrase is, but that's awesome to hear, and just the awesome gameplay and the large and colorful cast of characters like Ryu, Ken, Guile, E Honda, Zangief, Bison, Blanka, Sagat, Balrog, Chun-Li, Vega, then those four new challengers, Cammy, Fei Long, DJ, and even T-Hawk, who I think is the least popular of the Street Fighter characters and whom most people consider the worst Street Fighter character, but I love him too. I love playing as him too. Like I said, I first got into Street Fighter in like 94. I played 1994. I played Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo. Then I later in 1997 got Street Fighter, got a Sega Genesis, and got Street Fighter 2 Champions Edition. Of course, that was the game that had the four boss characters: Bison, Balrog, and Vega. Playable. It was an awesome game. I love the covers. I love both of the covers of the Super Nintendo, Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis versions of Street Fighter 2, especially the Sega Genesis one with Guile and Bison fighting on the cover. That cover still sticks out of my mind. That cover is iconic, in my opinion. So is the Super Nintendo cover you see right here. Then later when I bought a PlayStation, when I started getting into PlayStation, I started playing the Street Fighter. The first one I played, I started playing the Street Fighter Alpha series. The first one I played was Street Fighter Alpha 2. Then Street Fighter Alpha 3. I played the first Alpha game in 2002. But I started with Alpha 2. Then I later bought Alpha 3 in 1999. And man, those games are awesome. I love the Alpha series. I love how they added more characters from Street Fighter 1, the very first Street Fighter, like Birdie, Gin, and Aiden. I love how they took characters from Final Fight, another awesome Capcom action game, like Guy, Saddam, Rolling Toe, and freaking Cody. I love the anime style artwork which they got from Dot Stalkers, another awesome action pack Capcom fight action game, and just the new super. I love the new super combos, which of course debuted in Street Fighter 2 Turbo and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and the new, and I love the new styles of gameplay, the exorcisms, which a lot of fighting games have replicated in the years, where you get to choose a different fighting style, and a certain bunch of combos are associated with that style, made for more challenging gameplay, made for more challenging gameplay. And I love the Street Fighter. Well, in Street Fighter Alpha, when you beat the game, this is in Street Fighter 2 too. I love the, in my opinion, hilarious, over the top, hilarious, elaborate endings for each character when you beat the game. Then of course, after Alpha, after Alpha and all the Street Fighter 2s were done, they finally released Street Fighter 3. I love Street Fighter 3. That game was awesome, and in my opinion, it's the most criminally underrated of the Street Fighter series because you rarely see Street Fighter 3 outside of its video game counterpart. I think they were most recently featured in a comic book produced by Udon, but yeah, I love Street Fighter 3. The only thing I hate about Street Fighter 3 is, of course, a lot of the characters from the previous Street Fighters, with the exception of Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, and Akuma, didn't return. But I do love some of the new characters like Hugo, who reminds me of Andre the Giant. I love Alex. I love Alex, who reminds me of Guile and Hulk Hogan, and I love the character Urien, the guy in the suit who is a white guy, but throughout the game he ditches his suit and transforms into a muscular black guy in some kind of white sumo like thong. I think he's awesome. I thought and I like the character Gil, who looks just like Urien. Urien, I can't pronounce his name, but looks just like Urien, but except he's white and has yellow hair and has tattoos all over his body. Who he's the boss character, and I love the other characters Yin and Yang, who are pretty much the trainees of the character Gin from Street Fighter Alpha and 1. It was just an awesome game. I love the parry system where if you press the buttons right, you can parry attacks. I love the Street Fighter, the opening theme music, which is a hilarious Street Fighter 3 rap where they try to use every word in the dictionary to rhyme with the word 3. It's just the game was just such an awesome game, but they took so long to release Street Fighter 3 that nobody really cared about it. But I thought it was an awesome game in arcades, and it's one of my favorite games on the Dreamcast. I owned the last version of Street Fighter 3 on the Street Fighter 2 Anniversary disc for PlayStation 2, which contains Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo and Street Fighter 3 The Third Strike. But yeah, awesome game series. Then, of course, after various Capcom spin-off games like Capcom vs. Marvel, Capcom vs. SNK, and of course Capcom vs. Fighting Evolution, they finally released a brand new Street Fighter game. All the Street Fighter games prior to this game have just been revisions or a Capcom vs. series, but they finally released Street Fighter 4, and despite the flaws, I ignored the flaws because I was that happy to see the Street Fighter characters back in a new generation. Seeing characters like Ryu, Guile back in a brand new game. I can even forgive the flaws, such as Capcom promising new gameplay, even though it was the same gameplay as pretty much 3 with elements of 2. And they also promised more realistic gameplay, even though it was the same game as always, and even slowed down the game, something that's a no-no in Street Fighter. Street Fighter is all about fast-paced, competitive gameplay. But I was that happy to see Street Fighter, and it was cool, and I love the two new characters they got, Rufus and Abel, the Sambo fighter. But yeah, Street Fighter 4 was an awesome game. The only thing I hate was that they released an update called Super Street Fighter 4 Turbo with characters Aiden, Dudley, and Aiden, with characters Aiden, Dudley. I think it was Aiden Dudley, and I forgot the other character they introduced, but they should have been in the last Street Fighter 4. Why did you release the same game with those characters in there? I thought Capcom was being greedy with that. and they should have released Street Fighter 5 like they promised. But I was that happy to see Street Fighter 4. Well, this was part 1 of my Street Fighter Salute series. I'm gonna do part 2 talking about some of the stuff the Street Fighter franchise has spawned. All right.